Hello there and welcome back to another edition of the Hotlap Classic Remastered. This time we're taking a look at the 1991 Toyota Celica GT4, the ST185, our fourth and final generation of this Celica. We've had the RCs, which were not as good as they probably should have been, and the front wheel drive one that did fine. That was an ST182, so yeah. This one is supposedly statistically slightly worse than the RC, so we'll sort of see how this gets along. So that's the reason it's got the race mod, obviously. The ST185 RC didn't want the race mod because the rally car has the same race mod as that, because the way the rally cars work in this game, or the arcade mode rally cars I should say. Well, this one has the race mod on it because this one doesn't have a rally car equivalent, and this one also has some sort of very out of place yet slightly cool looking aftermarket alloys to sort of go with it. It doesn't have the rally style wheels that the rally car RC did, so yeah, interesting looking thing. As I mentioned, those cars didn't do particularly strongly, so it'll be interesting to see how this one gets along. Statistically, it's pretty alright. Four-wheel drive, 380 horsepower, 1,196 kilos. Those are sort of slightly better than average stats for this course. So, yeah, we'll see if the standard GT4 is better than the GT4 RC. This car is going to get 6 laps of the Motorsports Land track in order to set the best time it possibly can. Our current leader is the Mitsubishi GTO LM Edition 99. That car set a time of 27.017. The GT4 Celica unlikely to beat that. In case you're curious, the Celica GT4 RC, or Celica, I don't know, I sort of switched my way of saying it, I know one of them was wrong, but if you say both of them, then one of them will be right? Yes. The RC set a time of a 30.080, what should have really been a pretty straightforward shoe-in for the under 30 club, was not, and the rally car set a time of a 30.088. In case you're wondering, again, that is the arcade mode rally car that is identical to the race modded equivalent, except it doesn't have the final stage of weight reduction, basically. So I think it was very slightly heavier than the road car, but obviously the race mod gives you benefits in terms of downforce. So yeah, and before you ask, I don't know what the difference is like in real life between an RC and a standard Celica GT4. I think the main difference is, well, the RC in game makes more power. I think it weighs slightly less. I think the RC is sort of similar to a Carlos Sainz edition, which is what we got in Europe. I think that's the case, and then this one's sort of the standard GT4, which I think you can buy these from the start of the game. They're actually a pretty decent starter car. In terms of the way it drives, it feels a little bit heavy, but it's definitely not like a terrible car to drive. That's the joke of these Celicas. They're not like bad cars to drive. They're just sort of not as good as maybe they should. 30.001. Okay, goes very slightly quicker than the GT4 RC. Can we see if this will be the one to get under 30? Maybe it's just the RC had a curse or something. But no, they're pretty good to like drive. They're fine. They're just not like peak four-wheel drive performance car, which is, you know, what they should be. These things should really be up there with Imprezas and Evos, and even the ST205 that we had round that was a little bit quicker. It just misses out sort of that sort of final killer blow almost. You know, it just doesn't quite have the I don't know, what's the word? Doesn't quite have the sort of flamboyance those cars have. You know, the Imprezas, the older ones are much like the Evos, where they're very like fun to drive and you can chuck them around, whereas these you really can't. And the later Imprezas just have far more grip than this does. But it gets a 30.001. There is definitely some time in that, but yeah, it is quite funny that even this car can't get to the under 30 club. Not quite. Just about, but not quite. From what I remember from the RC, it was very understeery. This doesn't quite drive as sort of bad as that. There's also, I suppose, the passage of time makes this a little bit quicker, I guess. I'm not really sure. What I do know is the fastest time was not the fastest time. So yeah, there's definitely a little bit of time in there. Admittedly, if you sort of put all those sectors together, I think you're only about 0.1 up. Which admittedly would get this car a lot further up the leaderboard, because we've got a lot of cars that are set at 29.9, but either way, I will definitely take that. A 30.001 will place this into 124th place. It is, and probably will continue to be, the quickest car to not get in the under 30 club. Although if a car gets 30 on the dot, that'll be interesting, but I doubt that's going to happen. Goes in between an RX-7 Type RB and the Legacy Touring Sport RS. Quicker than the R33 drag car, TVR Chimera, and then, of course, the aforementioned Celica RCs. I do think this drives better than those cars. I think that's probably the reason it's quicker. Again, I don't remember. I swear the RCs had a little bit less weight, but I could be wrong on that. But this does just seem to drive a little bit more... what's the word I'm looking for? It's just better. You know, I won't try and find a fancy word. It is just better to drive than those cars are. So, in a very strange case, I would actually say probably go for the more base model than the RC. We've seen it a couple of times in this series. Obviously, with cars like the Alfa Romeo 166 and others. I can't quite think of them right now. But, I mean, some of the roofs, for example, you know. The base model cars can be quicker than the fully upgraded ones, or the fully like maxed out from stock ones are. So, very interesting stuff. Anyways, that's it for this episode. Thank you all very much for watching. Join me next time when I'll be driving something completely different. Until then, farewell.